I still don't know what I'm doing with this channel, and I've been wanting to take a break from recent games in here, and what's better than to start with something I actually like. Hello, I am Locke and this is Maya, the channel where I review recent games very fast while talking non-stop about them for the rest of the video. This is not one of those though. Unlike most of you nerds, I lived in a Sega household in the 90s. The Mega Drive, or Genesis on America, was an amazing console. It really did what Nintendon't.
Collins free. What Nintendon't.
Or Nintendo couldn't. With a weaker sound chip, a slightly better processor that was extensively marketed as blast processing, something that doesn't exist.
So what's blast processing do?
And next to zero third-party support, it was a miracle that Sega turned from a zero to a hero on the 16-bit era of video games. But that's for another day. I'm here to jump to the year 1991. Can't play music by my Jackson or I'll get sued. The 1989 game Final Fight was just released for the Super Famicom, the Japanese Super Nintendon't, as a launch title in 1990. People were spending serious money in Final Fight machines, and Capcom was on a roll with a big partnership with Nintendo for the series. Sega had nothing to compete with Final Fight. Its Golden Axe and Altered Beast games were really good, but they lacked that urban violence that attracted the young crowds, so they started developing what for me was the best 16-bit side-scroller action game of the 90s.
What Nintendon't.
With a void to fill, lead designer Noriyoshi Oba came with the very original idea of doing a street fighting action game along the lines of Final Fight and Double Dragon, with the absolute god Yuzo Koshiro taking care of the soundtrack. Koshiro is as godly as Nobuo Uematsu from Final Fantasy, Yoko Shimomura from Street Fighter II, or Simon Viklund from Payday. His vision for the music of Streets of Rage 1, 2, 3 and 4 made all the difference in those games. So what could have been a simple Double Dragons or Final Fight knockoff turned into a very different experience. And it was under those conditions that Bare Knuckle, Furious Iron Fist was released in August 2 of 1991 in Japan, and how Streets of Rage 1 came to life on September 18, 1991 for the Mega Drive. Gameplay-wise, Streets of Rage 1 played much like Golden Axe from 2 years prior, as it should, because it used the same engine from Golden Axe 1 with some modifications to make it better. Most of its items and weapons are copied straight from Final Fight, but streamlined. Capcom made fast action hard as nails beat-em ups and fighting games science by then. But in 1991, 1 year before Street Fighter II was out, they were still very weak, and Streets had a clear upper hand in my opinion. The game has 3 characters that are slightly different from each other. Axel Stone is the all-rounder with decent strength and speed but poor jump ability in general. Axel would end up becoming the face of the series after Streets of Rage 1. Adam Hunter is the strongest and slowest character with the farthest jump. Adam packs quite a punch and is pretty fun to play, but he can make the game a bit too much on the slow side. And the last one was Blaze Fielding, the female character. Her ability is her speed. She has decent jump, moves faster than the others, but is the weakest of the trio. Besides their slight differences, I wouldn't say that it's really different to choose any of them. They end up on those few points of damage, speed and jump between them, and the game feels pretty much the same no matter what character you choose. The weapon variety is very small, having only 5 different weapons to choose from, and from the 5 available weapons, 2 are just upgraded versions of the others. The power-up game is also pretty slim, but that is actually great, unlike Final Fight where you can find salads, beefs, burgers, clan chowder, ammunition, etc. Here you only have 6 power-ups, the classic apple and beef for health, the 1-up, the special point, the money bag and the gold bar. I actually prefer Streets of Rage straightforward itemization much more than Capcom's variety. In CPS games, the variety of items always feel overkill for me, and I always end up confused by what a specific item will give me in terms of numbers. Unlike in Final Fight, the special move in Streets 1 is general for all characters. A police car comes from a while back and shoots a firestorm on the enemies, taking all of them out instantaneously and dealing heavy damage on bosses. Some boss fights are way harder than what is considered fair though. But unlike some parts from its arcade brethren, this game is actually pretty fair. With only 3 continues to last through the whole game, you can feel the gameplay spiking a lot during its 8 levels, both to make the game last and to end the challenge, but it's never impossible, in comparison with other games from its time, of course. Nowadays, it's a Herculean task to finish this game in one go. The game's story is pretty simple. The city, which has no name, once prosperous and peaceful, fell into the hands of the crime syndicate, led by the villain Mr. X. By buying out government officials and even the police, Mr. X turned the city into an unsafe wasteland full of punks. 3 police officers, Adam, Axel and Blaze, quit the force after many unsuccessful tries in making a task force against Mr. X, to take matters into their own hands, and paraphrasing the game, with the will to risk everything, even their lives, on the streets of rage. It's a cliché plot, but it works, and once you get on those streets you get why they're doing what they do. Those dirty punks are causing mayhem all around, and the city looks worse than RoboCop's Detroit.
Let the woman go, you are under arrest.
You gotta back up, pal! Cause he's gonna kill her! He's gonna kill her! I got this bitch! He's gonna kill her, man! This bitch! He's gonna kill her! Oh! Oh!
Your move, creep.
Streets of Rage 1's soundtracks puts you right in the mood to punch some punks. Yuzo Koshiro is a master of his art. He felt that electronic beats were gonna be the next big thing in Japan and showed Sega some early concept of his ideas for the game. The energized soundtrack keeps you company during your adventure, never letting it become dull. Streets of Rage music shaped much of what I ended up considering good video game music, especially for action games. Many years before those epic songs with no soul were turned into the default, this showed me a good game gives you energy not only by its visuals but also by sound. Sound-wise, the hits and enemy cries are lacking much of the quality Streets of Rage would be known for on its sequels. Nothing carries a big punch here. See what I did there? Enemy cries are uninspired in general, but that is secondary to the amazing music. And I'm not here to shit on Capcom or Nintendo. Donkey Kong Country and Chrono Trigger are both impossible feats in terms of music design. But even though the Mega Drive would never be able to reach those levels of music quality, the 1990 port of Final Fight had these as the character selection music. And this is Streets of Rage. It's a simple loop destined for a screen where you're not going to stay more than 5 seconds, but it has soul. Soul that can be found from the first second the game is turned on, with its distorted guitars and percussion from the game's title screen, something that Final Fight would never deliver, not even on its sequels or the arcade machine. Quality-wise, it was better in the arcade, but the music was not very good. Capcom had amazing games, don't get me wrong, but most of their musical marvels were lost when translated to the home console. Koshiro was not porting, he was developing, and he made magic with the dual sound chips from the Mega Drive, the Yamaha YM2612 and the Master System's PSG that was present in the console's hardware. This level of production was only possible due to his expertise and focus in working with a single machine, without taking porting into consideration, and that would be seen in the ports of Streets of Rage 1. The Game Gear and the Master System version suffers a lot from the porting process, and for not having the correct audio machines to run the game's music. Much like Capcom worked for the arcades, games like Captain Commando or X-Men vs Street Fighter from much later in the 90s would keep getting butchered by consoles twice as powerful as our small Sega friend. But all that is history. History I and many others are fond of being a part of. The history of how a small team made a dent into the giants. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to Maya for the next ones in this series. I am covering every Streets of Rage game from 1 to 4. But unfortunately, our time is over for today, and I'll see you next time.